Hey Georgie, make a video. Georgie, you should upload a video. Georgie, why have you not been uploading a video? Why can't you upload a video? Come on, it's been 2 months, Come on, it's been 2 months, I should probably upload a video. So, the World Cup 2026 has officially begun, and after 6 days, this is what I think about every game so far. So, starting off with the first game of the tournament, we have Mexico versus South Africa. Now, actually, with this World Cup, Mexico becomes the only team in history to host the World Cup on 3 separate occasions, those being 1970, 1986, and 2026. Now, unfortunately for South Africa, this game ended up being a bit of a no contest, with their midfielder living up to his name, you could say, and their other midfielder, Themba Swane, also getting a red card in this one. Now, even though Mexico did get a red card of their own in this game, that being from Cesar Montes, they did cruise to a win in the end from goals from Quinones and Jimenez, giving Mexico a 2-0 win to round off their first game of the tournament. Now, up next, we have South Korea versus Czech Republic. Now, the Czechs showed up to this game with one plan and one plan only, and that was to win this game with terrorism. And after being battered for 60 minutes, Ladislav Krejci gave them the lead with a near-post header. Now, I'm going to be honest here, South Korea could have been 5-0 up at this point if Son had remembered to put his shooting boots on, but now they had given themselves the task of coming back from 1-0 down. And with goals from this guy and that guy, I'm not going to try to pronounce their names, I'll just fuck it up. South Korea took home a 2-1 win against the Czech Republic. On to the 2 now, and the game we start off with is Canada versus Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now, I don't think this game was exactly fair on Canada, considering they had to play 2 teams at once, but despite this daunting task, Canada still managed to come from behind and get a draw with a late goal from Kyle Larin. This is, in my opinion, one of the weaker games of the tournament so far, and therefore I won't be talking about it again. For the next game, we have our first hammering of the tournament as USA battered Paraguay 4-1. The host cruised to victory here with Balogun unlocking his inner R9 and someone teaching Giovanni Reina what a Trivela is. This then leads into game number whatever, where Qatar pulled off the greatest heist since Bayer Leverkusen sold Florian Wirtz for £116 million to Liverpool. And after surviving Switzerland's onslaught, Qatar equalised with a last-minute own goal from Miro Mahim. Our next game is Brazil versus Morocco, and my thoughts on a game are this.
1, 2, 3.
I'm dead serious when I say this, I might be better than Rafinha. The next game will be Scotland versus Haiti, and dare I say, the most random fixture ever. The Scots would take the win on this one though, with a goal from Super John McGinn to settle a really cagey game that could have gone either way, to be honest. Haiti really lacked experience in this one, even though he was sat at left back for the entire game. Our next game was an even greater heist in Qatar versus Switzerland, as Australia beat Turkey 2-0 with a defensive performance that only Mourinho and Simeone would be proud of. Australia were quite literally impenetrable in this game, with goals from Iran Kunda and Metcalf to take the win. This was one of my favourite games at the tournament so far, mainly because I just like the name Socceroos a lot, but mainly because I just love Australia's defence a lot. Shout out Patrick Beach, by the way, Australia's keeper. I think this is actually his first tournament he's been brought in for, and he absolutely smashed it with man of the match performance. Now, in our next game, Germany fisted poor little Curacao 7-1. Brazil fans could hardly watch in this one, as goals from Nemecha, Nathaniel Brown, Slotterbeck, Musiala, and 2 goals from Havertz put Curacao to the sword. Yes, I'm reading it off a script because my memory is shit, but this game was at one point level with an equaliser from Levano Comenencia to send Curacao fans ballistic. I'm going to be honest with you lads, these guys are just happy to be here, so I'm happy for them. Our next game was an absolute World Cup classic, a clash of titans if you will, which I did not watch because I was fast asleep. The Dutch were held to a 2-2 draw against Japan here with a last minute equaliser from Daichi Kamada. I definitely said his name wrong and I'm really sorry. The Dutch were 2-1 up here with goals from Van Dijk and Somerville until Japan remembered that this is a World Cup and they therefore have to fuck everyone decent up. Japan showed incredible team spirit in this one, even though one of their players is clearly an imposter. Up next we have Ivory Coast versus Ecuador, where Ecuador fell victim to the Rocky Balboa statue curse in Philadelphia. Now I have a better question, and that is how the fuck did they get that shirt on the statue? Now this game was settled by 1 goal with a late goal from Amad Diallo to put Ecuador to bed. Up next we have Sweden absolutely demolishing Tunisia 5-1. Now shout out to Graham Potter because he's been able to do something that both Arne Slot and Mikel Arteta haven't, which has made their strikers look competent. But as good as they were, this wasn't their game, as Yassin Ayari took the headlines with an absolute screamer to put the game to bed, and a successful completion of Brighton's plan to make Chelsea spend £300 million on him like they usually do. However, Yassin Ayari chose not to celebrate in this one because he has Tunisian heritage. Get a grip. The next game was Spain versus Cape Verde, and all I've got to say is how the fuck have Cape Verde survived this? In this game, Spain had more shots on target than Cape Verde had shots, and yet the game still ended 0-0. That's what happens when your front three consists of Gavi, Oyarzabal, and Ferran Torres. Only a few games left now, and we get to Belgium versus Egypt. Now this might be the most even game in history. Egypt took the lead in this one with a goal from Imam Ashour. I don't know if that's how you say his name, it's definitely not. Now all hope was lost for Belgium in this one until Lukaku came off the bench and sung his his dick into the back of Mohamed Hayner and forced him to score an own goal. Now our penultimate game is Saudi Arabia versus Uruguay. Now Uruguay were left stunned in this one as Abdullah Al-Amri gave Saudi Arabia the lead in the 41st minute. Why did they just show up in the first game of every World Cup? Luckily for Uruguay, Maximiliano Araujo managed to salvage them a point in the 80th minute. And that then leads us to our final game of the World Cup so far. And that is Iran 2, New Zealand 2, in dare I say the best game of the tournament so far. Now Elijah Henry put New Zealand 1-0 up in this one before Ramin Rezayan equalised just before half time. Now this game was the most end-to-end thing you'll ever see. In the 54th minute, Elijah Henry just gave New Zealand the lead again, combining with Chris Wood for the second time, before Mohamed Mahabi quickly equalised in the 64th minute. Now on a side note, I've never seen a team so dangerous with headers as this Iran team. And there we go, that is every game in the World Cup so far. Now the next game is France versus Senegal today at 8 o'clock, which should be a classic. And while I'm here, I would like to change my dark horses to Australia, because Turkey is still shit. And on a side note, why is the VAR staring into my soul at the start of every game? And why has this random bloke mugged me off?